voices, my body, head, and soul. Many miles away, I could start a perfect story. I found myself and find out glory. This deceptive world, giving me the sign, giving me the sign. Giving me the sign, giving me the sign.
Welcome everyone to the Sci-Fi Queens podcast, where we explore the female characters in sci-fi television shows, movies, books, games, art, anywhere female characters of science fiction are depicted. If you're new to our channel, we welcome you. We ask that you hit that subscribe and notification bell. It'll really help our channel grow, and it'll also let you know when our next episodes are coming up. And if you are interested in supporting our channel, we ask that you visit our new website, which also has our merch store and the Sci-Fi Queens bios in it, and a ton of great information there. It's going to be scrolling at the bottom of your screen. It is sci-fiqueens.net. So it is pretty simple and easy to find. I am your host, Nita. Tonight, with me is joining me my co-host, Sarah and Tiffany, and special guest, Marty, a.k.a. Karen Orteen, an awesome author and cosplayer. And we're going to be talking about the movie franchise of Alien. We're going to talk about all the aliens, okay? All the aliens. But I want to know first, how is our guest doing? How are you doing, Marty?
I'm doing great. I am excited to be here again. You guys are the best, so this is going to be fun. I love the Alien franchise.
Yeah, you do an incredible Ripley cosplay. I don't know if you guys have seen it or not, but you definitely should check out her TikToks and her social medias, because she does an amazing Ripley. She really does look like Ripley. I don't know how is it that you do that.
I thought about dressing up.
Cosplay.
What?
Yeah,
that would have been
fun. About dressing up for this occasion. But
and how are you doing, Sarah?
I'm doing okay. That 7 inches of snow all melted today in the rain, so thank goodness.
Good. I'm so glad.
Yep,
and how are you? How are you doing, Tiffany and Little Queen?
We are doing good. How are you, Hayden? We're doing good. There's no snow here. No snow here in Vegas, so
no snow in Vegas.
That's good.
It snowed in New York City, but it also was raining at the same time. So anything that was accumulated, which wasn't much, got washed away by the rain, which leaves what we call sleet, and it's slippery and very dangerous.
Yep.
But it's an early snow year today, this year for sure. But let's get right into the Alien movies, and we're gonna go back to 1979. Put your disco dancing shoes on, okay? Get the disco ball out, because it's 1979, and Aliens comes to play. Now we're going to let Marty, who is a huge Alien fan, start. Have you seen the 1979 movie? What are your thoughts, your first impressions when you first watched it, which I know was not in 1979?
It wasn't in 1979, but it wasn't too long after. I'm one of those people who saw this movie when I was way too young. I want to say I was like 8 years old. I don't know how I saw a copy of this at 8. It permanently scarred me. It is probably why I write the way I do, because this movie, it really scared me. It really scared me as a kid. It definitely, changed a lot of my life choices, because once you see that first like face hugger scene, it's like I was done for. It was done for. But I absolutely love Alien. This is one of my favorite of the franchise. And I know it's kind of cliche to say that, but I love that it's such a slow build, the tension. And I love how Ripley slowly comes into herself by the end of the movie. Because she's not that like powerful woman at the beginning that you think she is in the other films. And at the end of the movie, she's like,
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yes. She is amazing. I mean, when I first saw this, it was not 1979, although I was alive. I think I was like, depends on what month it came out. I was either 8 or 9. Depends. If it was September or past September, it was 9. I mean, it was 8. If not, I was 7 when it came out. It depends. But I did watch this movie eventually, and it does scar you seeing that alien baby come out. The way it comes out, ripping out of your stomach, it makes you think twice about having a baby. Like, it's like, ooh, it's it like that. I'm not trying to go there. I thought she was so amazing and so impactful, and I didn't realize then the impact in female characters in science fiction that she had until much later, and when I realized the impact she was having as a woman. Sarah, talk to me about when you first saw this movie.
I actually started with 3 because that was when that one came out. I was old enough, but then we went back and like when I'm like, what is this about? And then my parents figured out that I hadn't seen the other ones yet because they hadn't let me because I was young. Then I watched it. So I think I was maybe 9 or 10, depending on when 3 came out. But I mean, I started, I mean, it's kind of weird because I already knew who she was at that point, but does that make sense? Because I out of order, of course. But I watched it again yesterday, and I've read some things about it. Like, it was supposed to be a comedy, and like at the last, that I can't even imagine it being a comedy. And but then they turned it into.
Wait, I'm with you.
They turned it into this because it was supposed to be space truckers and it was supposed to be a comedy, and that's why they're all dressed the way they are, and those costumes are iconic, and it just, when you look at it under that light, I mean, it really does. Like, I watched it yesterday through that lens, knowing that it was supposed to be a comedy, and like they relied on a lot of jump scares, and but like if they're coming, they're not scary. Does that make sense?
They're terrifying, even if I knew they were coming. Okay,
no,
I'm not with you on that. I gotta say, I'm a bit of a chicken when it comes to Alien, but I can't stop watching it. I just can't. Little Queen got things to say tonight. She sure does. Tiffany, talk to me about your experience with the 1979 movie.
I think you want to in class. So just like Sarah, I didn't watch this one first. I actually watched Prometheus first because I was really late coming onto Alien, and so I didn't see this movie until more recently than all of you because I didn't see it until Prometheus came out, and I realized that they were linked. I didn't even know when I watched Prometheus that they were, it was a prequel to this. So that's when I was like, oh wait, I should probably watch the other ones too. And so that's when I went back and watched it. And a lot of the same themes, like you said, about Ripley like influencing other sci-fi women, even in this franchise, like with Shaw and with Daniels, like every other movie, they have the same kind of formula. They use that same formula continuously just because it works so well for them.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And the fact that, in 1979, she was a lead who survives, and she's a woman, and she's educated, and she's got all of these accolades attached to her, that's a huge thing. Talk about science fiction being progressive. Marty, talk to me about your thoughts on that, on how women were being portrayed in this movie, which was, I think, not the greatest, but not bad considering it was 1979.
No, I think the best thing about this movie, and it kind of continues on into the franchise, is that it's the woman character who, from the beginning, is like, hey, hold on, we need to take a step back. We need to think about this. We need to follow our protocol. We need to put in a quarantine. And the men don't listen to her. And that is like a theme that continues on through the Alien franchise, where like if the men had just listened to the woman at the very beginning of the film, there would be no film, right?
Right.
That's why they survive at the end, right? And I think that was a really big thing that Alien did that, because up until this point, a lot of the women in sci-fi, that's the damsel in distress trope that you always see. And after Ripley, I think people were like, okay, we can start venturing out into.
Yeah, absolutely. Sarah, what are your thoughts on the image of women in this movie in particular?
I kind of thought that the other girl, she was kind of, I mean, most of them were just, I mean, and if you look at it through that guise that they're like truckers, it kind of had that feel to it that they, but that the one other girl, she just kind of like went along with it and just was like, okay, whatever. But like and Ripley was like the only one that really kind of had some sense, like, hey, wait a minute, let's take a step back and give it a second before we just like gung ho and we don't know what we're doing here. And yeah, I don't know. I think that it was a huge step forward for women, because then, this movie was a hit. Obviously it spawned a whole franchise, and that gave, the movie creators, that license, I guess, that's not really what I want to say, but that freedom to actually put a female in a lead, and a strong female, and not, the damsel in distress, or, or like the Sleeping Beauty type thing. You know what I'm trying to say? That they could actually be a heroine. Yeah.
Yes. And let's talk about a little bit about the actual alien. Okay. And I like the fact that you can't tell if it's a male or female. Does it have any gender? And it's sort of reminiscent to the Gorn, the modern Gorn, not the Star Trek original series Gorn, because we didn't have anything other than that fight scene with Kirk. But in Star Trek Strange New World, we did get a lot of information about Gorns. And I think that somebody got a little influenced by Predator in creating the Gorn. But I mean, what do you think, Marty, about the alien itself?
I mean, I think it's definitely symbolic. I think you kind of hit on the fact that like the alien having both these masculine and feminine qualities makes it even more frightening. Because when I watch it, I always kind of see the alien as being female. To me, it's or not. But to me, I feel like it's almost scarier if you see the villain in this whole series as always being, a female character. Maybe specifically more frightening for the men, but I think just the way that it works and the way that it attacks everybody, it's kind of, to me, it's like female rage.
Well, what do you think, Tiffany?
I agree, because I immediately considered the alien to be a female, a woman, just because, or a woman of that species, just because of the way that the instincts of trying to procreate, trying to make sure that they create more life. It always triggered like maternal to me in any of the films. It always triggers maternal to me. And even like the symbolism of it, like hatching out of somebody, like it just felt like, oh yeah, that was like, that's a baby. That man, that's a baby mama right there.
That's a baby mama. Yeah. Sarah, what about you? What do you think about the alien?
I now that you guys say that, I do I haven't really ever put a gender on them. It kind of seems kind of asexual to me, but now that you guys like said that, it kind of does have that feel to it. So maybe I have to go back and watch again and like look at it in that light. But like, I know, I mean, to me, it was more like how like a beehive works. And like how you have the queen, and then you have the worker bees, and you have the drones, and and those kind of seem, the first ones we've seen a queen and all that, but like I see them as kind of like the worker bees gathering and harvesting so that she can impregnate them with her, lay her eggs, and then the face huggers can do their thing. But like it seemed to me it was more like a hive situation, and in that sense that they do kind of have, they're kind of agender, because like in a beehive, the drones are sterile. The male drone bees, they're sterile. They can't do anything. They just do what they're told, And that's kind of how I felt about the aliens, but I might have to go back and look at it again about the xenomorphs. I might have to go back and look at it through that maternal rage scope.
I think also what I see is you've got a female heroine, right? She survives
Hmm.
it. What better for her to be face to face to a female villain?
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And who all
Hmm.
she wants to do is survive and procreate. And all the heroine wants to do is survive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yep.
And it makes me wonder, you know, how villainous is these xenomorphs? Is it just a matter of survival for them, and they don't really care how they survive? They just
Right.
survive. Just putting that thought out there.
Yeah.
Deb has a comment here that's really interesting. He says that Lambert is canonically a transgender woman. What do you guys think of that comment?
Okay.
I think it's yeah, I could see that.
Me too. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mhm. But like even like just going back a little bit, just like right before he used to put that comment, I was gonna say like even the survival instincts of Ripley and the xenomorph at the end, like they both had the same thought: we're gonna get into this pod, you know,
Mhm.
that you know, the other one's gonna blow up, but we're gonna get in this pod, we're gonna survive. I'm gonna survive. I'm gonna make more babies. Ripley's like, I'm gonna survive. I'm gonna go find help. I'm gonna tell somebody what happened.
Yes.
You know, so they both kind
Absolutely.
of have the same, like, you know, I'm gonna
Mhm.
survive this kind of mentality. I think a man, you know, no offense to any of our male viewers, but I don't think a man xenomorph would have been like, I'm gonna go on the escape pod. He would have just been wandering around the ship still.
Murdering people, just trying to
Yeah.
find something to kill.
Yep. Something to eat. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. But
Well,
I mean,
and
that's, you know, I think that that's one of the differences of how we as women choose to live. You know, whether we are xenomorphs or humans, it's a survival for us.
Yeah.
You know, it had always been about survival for
well,
us throughout
and
history.
maybe that's part of what's so scary about this is that the alien really isn't. I mean, you know, the xenomorph really isn't a bad guy. I mean, we see it in that light, but
Mhm.
like they're just trying to survive too. Nobody asked them to be woken up and
Yeah.
to, you know, okay, and to trigger all this. You know, you kind of do it, you know, and when you go and poke an egg, you know,
Yeah,
something bad's going to happen. But that's like you invited that into yourself,
Yeah.
and they're just there. It's that need to procreate and survive and thrive, and then you know, it kind of, you know, that gets where it gets kind of weird. It's like, well, they're not really doing anything bad. They're just trying to survive, just like she is.
yeah.
And it's just kind of
You get
okay.
into
How
the
do
real
Yeah,
we?
bad
actually,
guy
yeah,
in the other films.
Yeah.
yeah. And I think too, if you watch the films all the way through, that even goes a little bit further to the fact that, like, you know, if it wasn't for the human interaction and involvement, you know, the aliens
Hmm.
probably wouldn't have been as angry and as upset as they turned out to be. Because
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
with that comment, that will take us, ladies and gentlemen, tease your hair, because it's coming to the 1986. Got to tease your bangs, got to tease your bangs.
Yep.
Put that Nair spray on it, get it all nice and big. Because aliens, plural, 1986, not only does Ripley survive again, but the cat survives. Let's not forget that, okay?
Hmm.
Yes, for cats. And
favorite
she
character.
tries to the only survivor in the strip that they encounter is a little girl. Tiffany, talk to me about this.
Well, again, I watched this more recently than you guys. So what I will say about the little girl character, I wasn't really a fan of having the kid in the movie. I know. It didn't seem like it would be the next step for Ripley. I don't know. It didn't feel, because I watched it right after I watched the other one. So it just felt out of place for me. Just because I just couldn't see it plot wise. But I mean, I guess with the alien queen thing, I see what they were trying to do, but for me, it just didn't work.
Really?
Mm-mm.
Marty, talk to me.
It might have worked. It's controversial. I know. I'm bringing
it's controversial. You just bring in trouble. You just bring in trouble.
It probably works, but like with fresh eyes, like now I'm just like.
But you see, I rewatched all of them this week, and when I watched this one after Aliens, the first one, I felt like it was appropriate because they were trying to colonize a location, and when you colonize, you bring families along. So it made sense in that way. You know, and it brought out that fierce maternal instinct of Ripley, I think. But Marty, what do you think of the little girl? I loved her there. I loved her.
Yeah, I know. It is controversial because this is, I think, super fans say that this is their favorite. It's not my favorite, but to me, the whole purpose of having Newt in the movie is to basically make Ripley like almost to bring her closer to the alien itself. To me, they're trying to like parallel the alien storyline. That's what they're doing with Ripley. The alien is already a mother protecting her swarm, her progeny, and this is an opportunity for Ripley to fulfill that maternal role as well, because up until this point there's been no reason for her to have that. And so I think that and of course that leads into the next one, and then the maternal line follows through with Ripley until the end of her story.
How about you, Sarah?
It seemed kind of fantastical that, that this, I mean, I know she's probably born there and raised there, but that this child was able to survive. I mean, I'm a mother, so like my kid probably couldn't. I mean, she might. Leah's fierce, so she might. But like survive that long, and when the guys are calling for help and like how many days will we last when if we don't check in? Oh, well, they'll come in 17 days. Well, we ain't gonna last 17 hours, like. But she survived all that time, and yet maybe it was kind of like, did the Queen allow her to live so that she could be bait if anybody else came through? Because I mean, I know she got away a lot, but like if the Queen said leave her alone, then they would all leave her alone. It just seemed.
I wonder if the Queen let her live because she wasn't mature physically enough to be implanted.
Right. And then let her grow up and then do it. I don't know. It just seems really and after seeing because I watched them out of order, like I said, and seeing 3 and then coming back to this, and it's just kind of like, because 3 is so male dominated, and then you come back here and it's Ripley and these butch girls that are fighting, and I mean they're cool. I love them. But they didn't, they kind of portrayed them as like assholes because they didn't, and they were supposed to give up their weapons or their the rounds. They stashed them and make all sorts of problems. And it's like, then it's, of course it was the girl that kept the rounds that she wasn't supposed to. Of course it was. But like, why wouldn't it have been one of the guys? I mean, that kind of bothered me when I watched it this time. It just seems, why did they make the girl do that? There's only, I think there was 1 or 2 girls in the whole squad, and the rest of them are guys, and nobody else kept bullets except for the girl.
So just let the audience know, you're talking about Aliens 3, the 1992. No.
Yeah, I referenced that. I referenced that one. That's the male dominated one. But back in 2, when they're underneath the nuclear plant and they're in the hive and they're looking at all the colonists that are all strung up, that
Vasquez that has the bullets.
Yeah. Gorman has them pull all their bullets because if they pierce the heating system, they'll go to thermal nuclear meltdown. But like the only one that kept their bullets was a girl. Really? Yeah. It kind of rubbed me wrong today. Go ahead.
All right. Does anyone want to say anything else about this second one before we move on?
Devin had a couple comments.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, let's put them right up. It says there. Go ahead.
What is your opinion of the scene in the special edition when we find out that Ripley had a daughter who passed away?
I didn't see the special edition, so anyone who has, go ahead, please.
I hadn't seen it either, but that kind of makes more sense of why she would want to protect Newt. That makes more sense, and that may have been something that they had in and then they cut out, and that was one of those things that maybe they shouldn't have cut.
Yeah,
I agree. I think I remember seeing that a long time ago. Yeah.
It would make more sense though, but I don't think that we were like the target audience for this film, even though she was a woman, leading it. I think they were like, okay, well, if we put a woman, we'll get women. But I think they probably cut that out because, of course, at that time it was probably all men in the room, and they were like, oh, it doesn't make sense for her to have had a kid. We don't need that, But for us, we're like, oh, that makes sense because it shows us why she's doing these things. But
exactly.
They're like,
exactly.
Well, this was the start of this is when they started shifting directors too. So I think that might have had that they were the audience with this one.
Makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. When movie franchises change directors, you can definitely see, if you are a fan, you can absolutely see the shift in how things are going. Which takes us to 1992, boo, Alien 3. This movie, can I just say before we begin, when I saw the movie clip, on TV, it freaked me out a little bit. And I'm gonna tell you why. It got nothing to do with aliens, because they showed her all kind of bald. And I said, oh my, I'm a little bit of a freak when it comes to my hair. So she has gorgeous hair, right? She had all this beautiful curls in the other movie. And I'm like, who did that to her? Because it looked real. Like you could tell when it's a cap. This looked real. And I'm like, that freaked me out. I'm like, oh, she cut all her hair. She's bald. Oh my God. It completely freaked me out. But I felt like it was such a dedication to her craft for her to do that. I don't know that I love anything or anybody that much. Sorry, I'm not just. I will not shave my head in solidarity for no one, but my heart will always be with you. I just can't go there. Marty, talk to me about this movie, about this. This is a very different from the other ones, I think.
Well, I just want to touch on the hair thing real fast, because I think, Sigourney Weaver learned very quickly that this role was so important to a lot of people. And I think the shaving of the hair was really important for her to kind of reach, women character on screen in that role without the beautiful head of hair. So I think it's great that she did it. This movie, to me, I remember when I was younger, this was my least favorite, but I rewatched it this week and I thought, this one actually is kind of interesting. It has some merit that some of the other ones don't have, I think. And for me, this one feels a lot like The Thing, with the original Thing movie, and especially I think it's because the dog, the dog scene, just that gets me every time. I mean, that's hard. That's weird when you see the dog shifting into this alien amalgamation.
Oh yeah, that was so sad.
Well, and I saw in Romulus Romulus, they had it was very brief, but they went through the lab and they had like those they had been doing animal testing, and then and obviously it wasn't productive, but that, I mean, it kind of touched on that too, that they were always trying to like blend the animals and the xenomorphs too. Like, well, okay, we've done it with a human. Can we do it with anything else?
Yeah. I thought it was an interesting scene, that the whole scenery of the movie, because she's literally the only woman in what seems to be some sort of a prison in space. And they literally like, oh, you can't you can't walk around because it's a problem, and you can't do this and you can't do that, and da da da. And it's just a really really interesting to me that they chose that kind of atmosphere. What do you think about that, Marty?
I think it was very purposely done because they set up this scenario where the men are like, we can't have any women here because we're going to fall back on our vices. We're going to be too tempted. And then they have the alien characters show up and do to them exactly what they had been threatening to do to Ripley the entire movie.
Yeah. And yet again, a woman saving the day because the men folk don't ever listen in these movies. Sarah, talk to me about Alien 3.
I actually enjoyed the evolution of her relationship with Bishop. You know, how she had the first relationship with the first AI, you know, like, oh God, because he was nuts and he really hurt her. And then, you know, when she first met Bishop and she was very wary, but then in this movie, she, you know, she brought him back to life and relied on him to get information, like tell me what to do. And, you know, it was just you know, it kind of it was so long ago. It was 1993, but it's like it's touching on things that we're dealing with now, like with AI and the way we should be interacting with them, and you know what I mean. It brings that back again. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Absolutely. Yeah. I totally understand that. Completely. Yeah. It makes sense. It makes
Mhm.
sense. Tiffany, what are your thoughts on this?
Sorry.
I put the lip.
Okay, I see it. Well,
Look, he put the lip.
guys, you're gonna have to come back to me on the next one.
Okay, no problem. I understand. Little
Yeah.
Queen got some lipstick she got to wear. It's important. It's important. But yeah, I mean, this movie really. She didn't act scared. I would have been terrified in that environment. What about you guys? Sarah, Marty, what do you would you have been scared?
I mean, I probably would be terrified, but I think I would be more terrified of the men than of the alien. But I think that's exactly
Yes,
why
that's
she
what I
wasn't
meant.
scared.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. The men.
I think she has to.
Yeah,
she had
I
to
think, and
put up that. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Oh no, I think she had to put up that image of strength and her own masculinity in a sense, in order to protect herself from everything that was going on in this one. Because in this one, her enemy is closer to her than it has been in the other ones. In the other ones, the alien is the enemy, but in this one, there's another enemy
But
first.
you see, that is again sci-fi touching on something that's very real and in a sci-fi way. Because as terrifying as these aliens are, and as much damage and death and destruction as they do, the harm that men can do to us is sometimes even greater. It lingers on in a way that there's no words for it. It's terrifying, it's deep, it's profound, it leaves its mark. And I think that really says something about how some men are, and not all, but how some men are. And because we don't know who are the men we can trust, we choose to put that wall up for all until we find those that are trustworthy.
And I think with this one, it was kind of like that. Instead of, you know, they'd always been butting heads and completely adversary, but this one, it's like their goals were kind of parallel. And I mean, they were still kind of. I mean, they had they had a couple confrontations, but it seemed more like their end goals were similar. So like, let's just like leave each other alone and see what we can do, and then at the end we'll deal with it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, for sure. Tiffany, are you able to share some thoughts on the third movie, or should we move forward? Okay, we're gonna move forward. No worries. So we're gonna go to Alien Resurrection, 1997. This movie has my two favorites, Sigourney Weaver and Winona Ryder. I was
Winona
always been
Ryder,
a
yep.
Winona Ryder fan. Especially in the 90s, she was a big deal. Lots of movies. Anything she was in, I watched. So I loved this movie with them together. Sarah, we're going to start with you.
I
How do you feel about this movie? And
I saw this movie in the theater like 27 times. I used to sneak out and go watch it because I was old enough to see it, and I would go and watch it. And I think the first time I was just dumbfounded because I was just, it was just amazing. Because like at the end of the three, I'm like, I wonder what they're gonna do. And then the whole process of this movie and not having just one but two strong female leads, that was unheard of in my opinion. That we hadn't had that before. And
Mhm.
even the big brawny characters, the muscular men characters that we had, and she's still a badder ass than they are, if that
Oh,
makes.
absolutely. Absolutely. Marty, what do you think?
I think the reason
This
this one
team
stands
right
out
here.
the reason this one stands out for me is because like even in death, Ripley cannot escape the trauma that these men have inflicted on her. Like
Yes.
they're still not listening to her. They bring her back just to not listen to her again.
Absolutely.
And so for me, yeah. But I think bring her back in this way, and I like how they just kind of even made her connection to the alien even closer.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
And of
absolutely.
course, the writers, she's
And
fantastic.
I love the fact that they used AI here because that is something that we're, in today's society really struggling with and learning about and whether or not to accept it.
Mm-hmm.
And did you guys notice, and I need to plug this, did you guys notice the three laws? Isaac is above much. Hello. I loved it. I'm a huge
Yeah.
Isaac Asimov fan. I love his work. I wish he was
Mm-hmm.
still, with us and able to continue writing more robots. A series. I read them all. So I immediately noticed that in these movies with the AIs, and I thought that was an amazing kind of and another thing about the science in these movies is the cryo sleep. As Trekkies, we're like, why can't they just warp? But that's not what's happening here.
No, it's
There's a little bit more uh realism because I think if we
science
were
facts. Yeah.
yeah, if we were to travel the way these people were, we would have to go into cryo sleep. So
Mm-hmm.
what do you think about those little kind of hints of influence that these movies have?
I think that especially in these movies, the cryo sleep and the way that they present the androids, it adds to the horror of the films. I think it's a lot scarier if you're traveling in space and you just kind of wake up after you don't even know how much time it's been, and then suddenly
Yeah,
the ship is in danger. Or and I do like your Asimov reference. It's definitely a throwback to that. I mean, it's also one of the first instances in the series where we see a sympathetic, almost android character.
yeah.
Because up
I
until
didn't
this
even
point,
realize when I first saw this. Yeah, I didn't realize she was an android until they mentioned it.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's
I'm sorry, I didn't
a
mean to
great
interrupt you, Marty.
surprise.
Go right ahead.
No, the first one that was also a surprise. We didn't know about Ash, and then
Yep.
so of course Bishop
Mhm.
we knew automatically, and I'm like, they could never pull that surprise off again, and they did it here with Call, and I think that was really well done. And it adds an extra complex layer of
Yeah,
trust, both for Ripley but also for the other characters, and off balance as well, because you're not really sure, do we trust these characters? Are the androids more human than human? Is the alien more human than human? Yeah,
absolutely.
there's a lot going
Absolutely.
on.
So, yeah, and this leads us to 2012 Prometheus. Am I saying that correctly?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Prometheus. Okay.
Yeah. Prometheus.
Um, Talk to me, Marty, about Prometheus.
this is people are gonna just be mad at me for this. This is one of my favorites. I actually really love Prometheus. I know it's like sacrilegious to say that, but I think this is great to get some level of backstory both for the characters, for the alien characters, for humanity, and I just love science fiction and faith, where we're like battling between what we believe in and what we experience, what we see with our own eyes, and which is why I love the character of Elizabeth Shaw. And I think David is brilliant, horrifying,
and a little
Yes.
Idris Elba, a little Idris Elba always makes space travel
Love
better.
Idris. Yeah.
Oh my God, I was truly, and I'm with you. I love this movie. I do. Tiffany, talk to me. Talk to me, because I know me and you are like this with the Idris. We're gonna have to fight it out.
I'm telling you. For me, I love the addition of him in this movie. He played, his character was, of course, pivotal to the ending of the movie. For me, the Shaw character, just her evolution of her having her husband, being pregnant with the alien baby, like all of that, and then like, so, you know, canonically, this is the first movie, so that was, you know, literally the first of the xenomorphs that, you know, popped out when she, you know, in canonical order, you know, that's how it's supposed to be. This is a movie that was the first of the xenomorphs, and just seeing that and knowing that if it wouldn't have gotten into her, they wouldn't have even looked like that, because that's like a human alien hybrid.
Yep.
Right. Yes. So it was just, I loved, like I said, I didn't know this was tied to that until the very end, and I was like, wait, what?
But when a movie does that, that is so good.
I just thought it was a movie about these beings that created humans who changed their mind and who changed their mind and wanted to kill us off at the end. I didn't know that this was an alien movie. I was just like, wait, is that alien? It was
I mean, this movie had two of my favorites. Charlize Theron, what a beauty. Wow. The woman is excellent. And Idris Elba, to be the meat in that sandwich. Hello. So Sarah, talk to me about this movie. Did you watch it?
Yes, this one.
Watch this one.
It's the next one that I haven't seen.
Okay.
But this one I watched a million times. Numi Rapace, I think is how you say her name. I know her name's Numi. I love her. I love her in anything that she's in her native language or in English. I like her in anything that she's in. She's just one of those people that if I watch it, if I see her name in it, I know I'm going to enjoy it. So, and I like, you know, they were originally trying to do this as an in-universe film, but not a prequel. And then later on in production, they had to like pull it together. And I mean, it would have been fine as a standalone, but I do like how they did tie it in. Because it's like, you know, how we've gotten expansion in the Star Wars universe and all that. They were kind of trying to do that with this, but it didn't. Somewhere in production, they changed their mind and like, okay, well, we're gonna go this way. But the interpersonal relationships and, you know, the fact that we get Charlize and we get Numi or Shaw and I can't remember what Charlize's character's name was. I did not like
Meredith
Vickers.
Vickers, yeah. God, Vickers. God, I thought she was such a fucking bitch. Sorry, I like, and when the ship landed on, like rolled on her, I was like, fuck yes, because I really did not like her. And I mean, we don't want to like for a character to die, but she's like one of those people that like you kind of like you love to hate. And I was like, oh,
and I think once you realize what her whole motive was, you know, behind why she was there, you kind of understand her hard exterior. She had to hold a secret, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I mean, and that sucks, but still, it's there. You know, same. It's that.
So if
it comes back. Oh, sorry. It comes back to that she was a company girl because she, you know, she's the Wayland's daughter. And it comes back to the company people are always shady. Even in 2, even in 3, it's always, you know, all of them. The company people are always shady. They're always after some ulterior motive, and they tell you they're doing one thing and they're really doing something else. And the company people piss me off.
So-
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead,
Since you
Marty.
guys don't like Vickers, I have a question for you. Since you guys aren't big Vickers fans, I have a question for you. There is a theory by the film that Vickers is actually an android, but she's a different model than David. Does that change how you might think of her? Because that whole scene with Idris
That
Elba,
makes
where
sense.
Yeah.
he
I like
asks her if she's an android, and she kind of gives him this look, and then she invites him to her room. That was a way for her to try to prove that she wasn't, and that she's actually jealous of Waylon's relationship with David because he should have a better relationship with her because she's an updated model than he is.
I liked
It's a
her
theory,
character, to
but I
be
like it.
honest. I liked
No,
her
that's
character.
it. I like that theory.
But
That makes
I
sense.
like that
Different.
theory, and that theory makes sense because she was very robotic and many, if you didn't know,
She had no
is she
empathy.
Vulcan? Is she a Vulcan? Like, what
Yeah,
is
she had
happening with her?
no empathy at all.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, she nailed that part, and
Well, this
Michael
film-
Fassbender was fantastic too. Go ahead, Marty. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, because like the Prometheus and Covenant films, they have a lot of crossover with Blade Runner, and I know a lot of people see the Alien and Blade Runner universes as being in the same universe. So there's a lot of people who think that she might be like one of those that isn't necessarily aware that she is an android.
Oh, like a
Whereas
replicant. Okay.
Whereas David is fully aware. Yeah.
Yes,
It
absolutely.
would be cool. It would be cool to know.
That is actually quite possible, for sure. I think that these actors they chose for this movie was so fantastic. Michael Fassbender nailed it on this one.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he was very believable. Very believable, for
Creepy
sure.
David.
Yes, he was creepy for sure.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
go ahead. Go ahead, Tiffany.
I love David's character and the fact that the way that it evolved into how he is in the next movie, in the Covenant movie, is just kind of like, what the hell? What happened to you? Like, he was my favorite. I thought he was so sweet. I know that, he does the creepy shit behind people's backs, but I thought he was just a good character. And then the way his just creepiness evolved into just being plain sinister, like, yeah, it was good character development.
It was creepy when he kept talking to the computer and calling it mother, and then it's Ripley's voice. That creeped me out.
Well, and if you go back to the other to 1 and 2, the computer was called Mother.
Oh, Mother, yeah.
And then I was just thinking about it that that David actually he didn't do anything to Shaw's husband with that. He actually asked him first before he did it. He just didn't tell him what he was asking him. Would you do anything to blah blah blah? And then he dipped his finger in this water. But like I was just thinking about that. Like, did he do that with that? Because we're all about consent now. But like I was thinking about it that he actually did. He asked him, and then he didn't explicitly say, "Hey, I'm gonna poison you with this black goo," but he asked him if he would be willing to pursue the science and pursue this as far as it could go. And then he dipped his finger in the water and like, here you go. And like it's still Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I just find it interesting that like the David's character is so he's doing exactly what the humans did with him and what the engineers did with humanity. I mean, he's just continuing the cycle to an extreme, obviously, but he's just doing basically kind of what he was made to do, to discover who he is and then find a way to procreate.
Yep.
I mean, he is Mother. Right? He is.
Yeah, definitely. But that takes us to the next one, Alien Covenant 2017. We are almost here to the 2024s. This was actually a good movie as far as I'm concerned. This was good. I love how they continue the story of Walter. I thought that was a good good casting there. Marty, what do you think of this one?
Yeah, I like Covenant a lot. And I think it was a good bridge. This was supposed to be a trilogy, and this was supposed to be the second part that bridges into the final film with David, which they haven't made yet. And I'm really hoping that they finally do it. But yeah, I love that they had another quote David android, the Walter character, to kind of balance out, the crazy side of David and then what David was supposed to be. And again, I thought Daniels was she's one of my favorite characters in the franchise.
Yes, absolutely. Sarah, oh, you didn't get to see this one, right?
No, I'll be watching it tonight because I put it on before the show. Like I watched Romulus, and then I put this on, and I'm like, because I've been letting them run all day, and I was like, wait, what's happening? Have I not seen that? I'm like, well, I bought it when it came out, so I'm like, how did I not watch this?
What demerit for the Queen of Darkness?
Well, I think what happened is I probably wanted to watch Prometheus again and then watch this, and then my ADHD, I got lost, so and I just never got back to it.
So, Tiffany, talk to me about Alien Covenant.
I loved Alien Covenant, like next after Prometheus, one of my tops of the franchise, just because I liked, like you said, the android character, Walter, even more than I liked David. It hurt my heart so much to see that he ended up getting, what happened to him at the end. I don't want to really ruin it for Sarah, but what happened to him at the end.
I know.
But
that broke my heart.
I do hope they do another one, just because like what happened, it left a cliffhanger open. It kind of shocked me that David went so far, like what he did to Shaw and all those things that happened before the other crew of the colony ship came down. Like that was all just so insane. And the saddest part of this movie, I think, not only the Walter of it all, but the whole little like red shirt crew, like the whole crew that just like were killed just for nothing. Just the deaths, and they came so quick just from, it was like from any other alien movies, they usually use the face huggers to transmit the alien, babies or whatever. And this one with just using that easily transmittable spore was just like, you never knew who was next. It was just crazy. It was crazy.
Absolutely. Marty, how about you? What about this Alien Covenant?
To me, the one scene that stands out, and I'll be a little vague because I'm not sure how far Sarah is when you find out what happened to this planet, and you find out what David did. I'm just like the extreme.
Yeah,
I remember the first time seeing it in the theater, just be like, the extremes a man will go to for attention. Like, honestly,
I was in total shock with that as well.
Right.
That was I didn't expect that because I honestly liked the character and I liked this synthetic robot. And he was working it for me. Like I was like, all right,
But there's a mini like short film or something that came in between these. There was supposed to be like a prologue to this one. And it showed like what he did to Shaw, like how he ended up, what happened when he got to the alien planet. They showed a little bit, of course, what he did when he first got there, but it was like a whole thing from them leaving together, finding the planet. Like there was a whole like little mini movie that they put out,
which is
that
definitely worth watching.
Yes.
But it's interesting too, because if you have seen that prologue, you see that this relationship that grows between David and Shaw before what happens, and you almost feel like, I don't want to say that there's love there, but I think on Shaw's part, she was seeing she thought she was seeing some humanity reflected back in him. And then you have Walter and Daniel's relationship. And I really feel like, even though Walter is like, no, of course I'm an android, I can't feel that way, I do feel like that there is an emotional attachment between them.
I think so
to see what happened with them and what happened with Shaw and David, where David then acts like there was love there, but of course David's not capable of that.
I agree with you. Yeah, that was definitely something I was picking up on, but I wasn't sure because I wasn't sure how sentient he was and how much emotion he had. But that brings us to the final Alien Romulus 2024. Okay, Star Trek much? That's what I gotta say here. Alien Romulus? I mean, really?
There wasn't a single Romulan in this.
For real. Where was the Romulan ale? That's where's the drinks?
Right.
Tiffany, talk to me about Alien Romulus.
I thought this was a really good like follow-up to, because it was supposed to fall in between like 20 years after the original Alien, before Alien 2 or something like that in the timeline. So I think that thinking about it like that, thinking about, you know, how they're kind of still kind of oblivious, because you would think in this universe they would have spread the word like, hey, don't go on those ships that look creepy. If you see some stuff crawling around, run, you know, but they haven't, because the company that they all work for, they don't really want anyone to know about this, because it's all a background operation for this operation. Everything that company does is a background operation for the alien, you know, they want to grow aliens or whatever. So in this film, when they go onto that ship and see all those face huggers, I literally screamed in the theaters. I was just like, no. No.
I love how we're calling them face huggers. Is that an official title for them? Or
yeah, it is.
okay,
Yeah,
I wasn't sure. I wasn't
Yeah.
sure.
I was just screaming, and you know, having the callback, having Ash, you know, them bringing that back, you know, through lots of CGI, of course, you know, having that whole thing, that was so creepy. I think that was the creepiest part of the whole movie. Him just like navigating them, like, ugh.
Yeah.
I know the creature at the end was kind of creepy.
Oh, right.
Oh god. Well, and knowing that that's actually a man, that he's really that tall, that's not CGI, that's not anybody in a rubber suit, that's a man with makeup on. He like that. Yes, that's a man. He is because he sucked at basketball, so he went to act, and they dressed him up, put makeup on him and prosthetics and stuff, but that is a man. That is his real height. And that like kind of freaks me out a little bit.
Crazy.
But something I caught today when I was watching it, when they step onto the station from their ship, the Prometheus theme, like that music, that beautiful music that they have at the beginning of Prometheus, when all that stuff's happening and you're seeing all the background, that's playing when they first step onto the station. And I was like, oh, that's a nice throwback, and kind of like pulling it all together. And I noticed a lot of watching it today after having just watched Alien and Aliens. There were so many throwbacks to Alien, you know, all the things that she did, you know, like when she climbed in the suit, just like Ripley did, and you know, all the things. I don't know. I'll let somebody else have a turn.
Marty, talk to me about Alien Romulus.
For me, I loved this one, and the reason I loved it the most is because we get to see young people, like really young people, and they're just really trying to like make better lives for themselves. And of course, it all goes completely wrong. And that's one of the things I love about the Alien franchises. In all of the movies, except for Prometheus and Covenant to some extent, the people that are like the victims they're just hardworking people that are trying to make a life for themselves. They're just like they're truckers in space, or they're just colonists, or they're just you know, kids trying to get out of a bad situation. They're already disenfranchised, and then this happens to them. But I'll never forget, I'm in the movie theater watching this movie, and then I see the scene where like the acid blood is like, I'm like, wait, if they turn, and I'm thinking like, if they turn off the gravity that's gonna float around, I'm thinking to myself, how are they gonna do that? Because the person who was with me had never seen an alien film before, so had no idea what that meant. And I'm like, that whole scene of them like trying to float through the alien blood, that was wild.
Yeah, it was scary.
That was so wild.
Very terrifying. Tiffany.
I loved it though.
Yeah, this one definitely felt more like a horror film than the other ones. Just, you know, because of who the director or the, you know, of the film, he does horror films, you know, so it was just, it felt like a horror, you know, whereas the other ones felt very sci-fi. This one also felt, of course, very sci-fi, but it was like a lot of like, you're gonna die. There was like immediate like fear, like there was like
absolutely.
Like even when they mentioned that one of the characters was pregnant, I knew immediately. I was like, oh no, they wouldn't be telling us this for no reason.
Yeah, this is gonna end badly.
It gave
I think
vibes. Yeah, definitely.
I
agree with you. I think that this one is the closest to the original.
Yes, it is. And I love the character of Andy. And I love how she was like, that's my brother,
Yeah.
and she
Yeah.
cared for him like family. And I think that he nailed it. David Johnson nailed that
So good.
part. He was so good. And they had such good chemistry in this
Mhm.
movie, even though he's an android, not supposed to have like these feelings. I felt like he was at some level sentient. And even when they put the updated tech in him, he still was looking out for her. And I thought that that was quite beautiful, that they were looking out for her, that he looked out for her. His original programming never left him. And I felt that was definitely a bond. And I was like, well, is he going to be the only one surviving this? Because today was the first time I had watched this one. It was the only one of the movies I had not watched. And I'm like, well, is he gonna survive it too? And I love the fact that he got to survive it as well. Not to that close to the end with her. He saved her. He sacrificed himself for her, and I thought that was very beautiful. And it gave me a sense of the first movie where she's alone, trying to survive. And I thought that I agree with you guys. This one is very reminiscent of the first one. Um, and I thought that that was very well done, for sure. For sure. Absolutely well done.
And I think that it's a good way to bring people into the franchise because maybe they'll watch this and then they'll go watch all the others if they've never
Mhm.
had, you know what I mean, that they never, like how Tiffany came in with Prometheus and like that brought her in. But maybe this will bring in the next generation, maybe they just think it's a horror movie and like, okay, we'll go watch this. And then they'll, it'll pull a different crowd in. Devin and I saw it in the theater and it was amazing. I liked it
Yeah.
and it was just and I can see things coming, but we kind of had that impression that they kind of portrayed Andy not as a glitchy robot, but almost like he was autistic. That was the kind of feel that he had. Even though he was a robot, that was kind of it was that I got to take care of my brother. He's a little off, and that like before it was ever revealed that he was an android, that was the impression that we got, and I kind of like that they that reality of how like with Star Trek and Star Wars, everybody's fine, everybody's perfect. There's nothing, there's no. I mean, but I mean Star Trek more so they portrayed disabilities with adaptations, but like a lot of these futures and sci-fi that we see, everything's fine, everything's perfect,
Yeah.
nobody has any problems. But like this was, it was nice to see that in this
The
scope, I guess,
struggle
and
of
then
humanity.
yeah, that we hadn't
Yeah.
we haven't completely moved on. And
Yes.
with the girls and like when she says, "Oh, I'm pregnant," well, who is it? Just some asshole. I'm like, oh, it's somebody here. I'm like, oh, that I just knew it. I was like, it's somebody here that she's not supposed to be hooking up with. And I mean, I thought that was kind of shady. That I mean, that's more on the guy, obviously, but you know, the first girl to die is the competition.
Interesting, right there.
Did anybody else catch that? Because that was the pilot girl that had the first chest buster. She was the girlfriend to the baby daddy, and that was kind of like, oh, and now she's out of the way, so now we're gonna take care of this. And I mean, they all ended up dying anyways, but still, it's like I that kind of it rubbed me a little bit wrong, but I mean, just because I'm a woman, but
But I think that
I,
it shows humanity's behavior in a more realistic light.
yeah, it
Even
does.
though it's the future, these things still are going on. They're still
Of course
happening.
they are.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, normally at this point, we do a a real world scientist, a sci-fi book recommendation. We're going to eliminate those for this episode because we really wanted to give more time and dedicate it to all of these movies. We are going to be
Hmm.
doing, and we'll let you guys know when. Probably in the new year, we're going to be reviewing the Alien versus Predator movies. So that's definitely something to look forward to. But I want to give this opportunity to Marty, so because she has got a book coming up in July. Talk to us about the book. Tell us when we can see it here in the U.S.
So the book is The Man Room 7. It's currently out in ebook and audiobook in the US. It is a suspense thriller, but there is a sort of supernatural paranormal element to it. It's about a young woman whose son is taken in the middle of the night by her husband, and then she spends the next 6 years searching for them. And when she finally tracks her husband down, he claims to not know who she is. He says he doesn't recognize her, and her son is nowhere to be found. So it's a race against time to figure out her husband. So it is out now in ebook and audiobook in the States. The paperback is out in Europe, but the US will be getting the paperback in July of next year.
Yes, and you guys can pre-order it already on Amazon because I am
Yay.
already pre-ordered. Definitely. And you also have a podcast. Tell us a little bit about that in the next episode and what should we expect?
Yeah, I am on another fracking podcast. We do episodes every other week. We're on a little bit of a hiatus this month, but for the holidays. But we will be back on December 8th with our new episode at 8 a.m. We're very early podcasters. And our next episode is about our favorite pets in science fiction. So, of course, we will have Jonesy from Alien on there and some of our favorites from Star Trek as well. So look out for that one.
Awesome. We love our pets. It's here at the Sci-Fi Queens. So we definitely going to be looking out for that one. That is so fantastic. We're going to be looking out for your book. Is there a sci-fi book perhaps in the future?
I am currently working on something that is more in the horror genre, but if you are a fan of kind of the cosmic sci-fi horror, I think you will like it. I can't say too much about it yet because I haven't locked down a publisher, but fingers crossed. We're going more in the alien-esque direction.
Publishers listening right here in Sci-Fi Queens, reach out to this chick. She is fantastic. She's 4 books in. Get her while she's hot. Okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Bring her in. I mean, it's pretty fantastic. You also wrote something with Star Trek fandom. Am I getting that correct?
Oh, yeah.
Tell us about that.
So So I'm an author. I write for a living, but of course, like a lot of people, I write for fun as well. And recently, some of my friends on TikTok had asked if me to. I am on AO3 now, and I am posting Star Trek fan fiction. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to do that, if I'm allowed to do that. Don't tell my agent. Although I'm sure she does it as well. But yeah, you can find me at Marty Writes on AO3 if you want to read my little Star Trek fan fiction. I might actually have an alien fan fiction on the way as well. So stay tuned.
Awesome.
Ooh.
Okay. I like that. I like that. That's excellent. Yeah, and then it is so fitting if you did that because you also do an amazing cosplay. She cosplays everything under the sun, but does an amazing Ripley cosplay, and it's pretty fantastic because she also has an orange cat.
I do.
So he's featured in the cosplays too. I mean, he's got to work, you know. Yes. That cat food don't come for free.
That's not.
But I do want to share with you guys when our next episode will be, and that's going to be December 6th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to be talking about that thin line between sci-fi and fantasy, and we're going to be talking about some of our favorite shows. Okay, so December 6th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Join us, and it has been wonderful having all of you. Does anyone have anything last minute to share? Tiffany, Sarah, Marty, anything you guys want to say before we go?
I'm going to go watch Covenant.
Yes, Missy.
Yes. And I will say, if you haven't seen the first episode of Doom Prophecy, go watch it. It's so good.
Yes.
Yeah,
it is.
Absolutely. But thank you so much, guys, for joining us tonight. Thank you, Marty, for joining us again. And you are always welcome here. Anything you want us to plug for you, just give me a holler. Let me know. We got your back here on Sci-Fi Queens. And we are looking forward to that podcast because we love our pets. But thank you guys for joining us and viewing, and your comments is much appreciated. But good night and have a wonderful weekend.